Thanks, Roger. So in 2004, I didn't think that I would be standing in front of people in 2011 still talking about the plight of U.S.-Iraq war resistors, but here we are. Most of you should know, I'm sure you're aware, that here in Vancouver, Rodney Watson, a decorated Iraq War veteran, is living in sanctuary at First United Church, and he's been there since September 18th, 2009. Can't leave. He's living there with his Canadian family. In the news this week was some good news for war resistors. For the second time, the Canadian federal courts have sided with the arguments of the war resistors and their fabulous lawyer to say that the government has consistently been giving cookie-cutter judgments about the war resistors and not taking into account their particular situation. The legal jargon is that the federal court has given leave for a judicial review for the pre-removal risk assessment and the humanitarian and compassionate grounds application of Dean Walcott. We had a similar decision like this last summer for Jeremy Hintzman. It means that the government is ordered to go back and look at these cases again because they didn't do it right. They didn't give proper consideration. They've mischaracterized the risks to these soldiers if they're returned to the United States. In addition, our government issued last summer Operational Bulletin 202, which flags and labels as criminals any U.S. soldiers that would try to cross our border because they refuse to fight. It labels them as potentially inadmissible. We have petitions and leaflets on our national website if you would like to help us to promote that issue. It's definitely a Jason Kenney, Stephen Harper issue. And I want to say, to bring it back home, because I believe that some people still think, well, why should we care about American soldiers who come to Canada, despite the fact that Canada has this long and, we think, honorable history of welcoming those who resist war and militarization. But this has great bearing on our own soldiers. And Murray Dobbin wrote a really good article on Afghanistan in the CCPA Monitor. And he actually refers to the problem of Canadian soldiers having the same fight for their right to uphold international law that these American soldiers have had in Iraq. And he acknowledges that all of us care about our American soldiers, our Canadian soldiers. When we say war no more and bring them home, it's because we care and we want them home safely. It's not because they're the ones issuing the orders. We know who issues the orders, and those orders are wrong. And they need the strength and the support of this country, of our citizens, for them to be able to say, no, we refuse. We know what's going on, and we refuse to do it. So, Murray Dobbin, I want to read a brief part of this because I thought it was, it's very powerful. And if we can win on the U.S.-Iraq war resistor issue, then we're winning for Canadian soldiers. We're winning for soldiers all over the world who are subject to the Nuremberg Principles and the Geneva Conventions that say you must not commit war crimes, and you must speak out if you know that they're happening, and you must refuse. Even the lowest-ranking soldier has a duty not only to obey the Geneva Convention, and first knowing what it says, but also to immediately expose the breaking of the convention by anyone in the military. Given the widespread practice of turning over prisoners to the National Directorate of Security, the Afghan Intelligence Service, and at a much higher rate than other NATO soldiers, it is clear that dozens, if not hundreds, of rank-and-file soldiers completely failed in their duty. They were, in fact, complicit in war crimes. Then, 2 years ago, a soldier from the Military Special Forces Unit, JTF-2, approached the Army's ombudsman with serious allegations of military war crimes. In his complaint, he suggested that the only solution to the problem was to withdraw the unit entirely. The Ombudsman Office described the soldier's allegations. He adds that he feels more and more of his peers are being encouraged to commit war crimes by the chain of command. He says this intervention was not aimed at having the guys who pulled the trigger investigated. They're being incited to do these things by the chain of command. And we know where the chain of command stops. Stops at the top. It stops with Stephen Harper. And that's another reason why this election is so important. So please, keep on paying attention to what's happening with the Iraq war resistors. Keep on demanding that our soldiers come home. Keep on demanding that Canada not be complicit in war crimes, because that's not who we are, and we know it. Thank you.